Okay. Anyway, this is an introduction of BioFusion, and we are Studio Pintado. As I mentioned, to talk about BioFusion is talk about our company, but I want to run down what I'm going to talk to you right now. First, it's an upgrowth of bioarchitecture. The second is the building blocks of nature and the geometry of nature by harmonics, and we will be showing some of our sample projects internationally and locally, and we will talk about sustainability. So as I mentioned, I am not alone. Actually, I am a part of a group. Right now, we are called Bioarchitecture Asia. I am part of Building Dreams or Bioarchitecture Lab in London. These are these are the blokes I'm with. Our principal or the original creator of bar architecture is Michael Rice, who is now stationed in South America. Nick is in Singapore currently, coming from all the way down from Dublin. Me, myself, and then Nick Jones of the USA. Okay, what is bioarchitecture, ladies and gentlemen? Bioarchitecture is the art and science of designing and building space which creates, supports, and enhance life and living system. The question is how, especially during our times, how relevant is this? Well, let me tell you. Let me just explain. We have considered architecture right now and the edifices that we have built to be of such greatness. In fact, when we talk about modernity, we look at these things. We look at these structures. It's not that they're bad or anything. It's just that what what has not been told to us is the byproduct of all of these structures that we have built. Imagine tayo mismo arkitekto tayo. We actually build something that there's actually an ill byproduct. What am I talking about? I'm talking about, well, actually, when I talk about this, very few people are even familiar with electromagnetic poisoning. Methane, poisonous gases, radioactivity, these are some of the byproducts of the buildings or the edifices that we build. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, if we talk about pollution, we talk about environmental pollution and all, we normally refer to transport as the number one cause. But here's the thing, it's the building that we build, that we design and we build and we live in, which is the number one that causes environmental pollution. Why is it, why bother? Samantalang talaga naman, well, it's really, that's the tendency. They say, in fact, in some of the researchers that I read, well, this is something that we cannot avoid because of the modernity, because of the technology that we have currently. But ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Now we are experiencing it. In fact, um, right now we are bombarded with all of these things. Dirty electricity is about. Electricity is basically an electromagnetic interference that causes noise and poisons our body. Smugs, water pollution, and yes, a lot of these things affects overall the well-being of a person. And of course, pollution. And to top it off, as if these are not enough, here's a pandemic that some are saying are actually byproducts also of the things or the modernity that we are doing. So where does biofusion came? Basically, we want to come back to something that's nature based. I want to quote a scientist, si Janine Benelus actually. She said that if we protect nature, nature will actually protect us. In fact, she also mentioned that if as our greatest teacher, and we will try to expound that, ladies and gentlemen, here. No. So I may mention that we are advocates of bioarchitecture, of biofusion. It's basically an upgrowth of bioarchitecture. An upgrowth meaning from its original form. When I was working with these blokes, we kind of came about an agreement that we will basically Filipinize bioarchitecture. So I'd like to think that's what it is. That's what BioFusion is, basically the Filipino version of bioarchitecture. It's in combination with architecture, with biophilia. Yep, that's BioFusion. And this is our, I'd like to believe, our take what Philippine architecture is. So BioFusion is basically, as mentioned, an upgrowth of bioarchitecture. It's a combination of various disciplines such as biophilia, architecture, and the like. It is a pragmatic process of planning, designing, construction space derived from nature. It integrates natural form, biological function, environmental, social, and aesthetic considerations of living organisms. It requires knowledge of living systems, natural harmonics, and fractal geometric relationship expressed as form, pattern, and rhythm in ratio. I want to repeat that. It requires a knowledge of living system, natural harmonics, fractal geometric relationship, expressed as form, pattern, rhythm, ratio, and proportion. Because I wanna dwell more on that, no? Because you see, nature uses a fixed set of ratio to create a structure that's both aesthetical and functional. What we basically do, we extend this into the built environment and takes it in another level by careful combination of other design factors also attuned to nature. If we, I want to present to you some of the sketches also, of course, of my mentor, which these are some of the sketches of Mike. So Mike's approach is very direct. If you look at this sunflower, it's basically a sunflower. So he comes up with the design layout that's directly based on the fusion of the sunflower there. And what does this? Ano bang kinalaman natin? This actually creates a very healthy and a very, very attuned to nature na architecture. Because we'd like to believe nature really knows best. Curves are actually better than corners. Would you believe that we are not built to, to live with corners? And it has a very positive psychological and structural effect on our bodies and our system. So nature is, it's BioFusion, it's nature's architectures, design based, inspired from nature, dictation, built environment upon Earth's blueprint. It has a path, what we call a least resistance, and it's based on understanding of movement of energy. It also has a form that is based on phi. We will discuss all of these things. And it has a geometry, defines life. I want you guys to focus here. This is actually an experiment that we did in Batangas in the farm. If you're familiar with that place, of course, sempre no. As an architect, I was very skeptic about it. So what Nick did, come here. So he came up with a artificial container that's made of gold, and he shaped it into, if you can see this, he shaped it basically like an egg, and then he put we made an experiment. He put one of the eggs of the chicken. Later on, we called it the Matilda chick. What basically happened, to make the cut long story short, this egg, it hatched inside um, this artificial, or this gold shaped container. No, not gold shaped. It's egg shaped. It's made of gold. It's 18 karat, yes. And in fact, when the chick developed, it was stronger, was better, it was healthier. And when we found out later, of course, it developed into a chicken. Mas madami yung eggs that it hatched. So we found out that if you have a design that's based on nature, that's conducive on the parameters and designs of nature, you're actually healthier, you're actually stronger, and guess what? You're actually more productive. And then the fourth one, which is very significant now, is you are more resilient. Of course, needless to say, Matilda, the chicken, lived longer than the siblings. And I want to show you this picture here. That's actually, the egg is based on phi, on fractal geometry. Why is that important? If we look at nature, there's actually a natural phenomenon. There's a fantastic phenomenon about it. You look at, observe nature. If you're a knucklehead like me, you want to watch nature. You go to the beach, you go on a forest. You observe something. There's actually a pattern. You will see something. That's parang nakikita mo na pattern, no? And we look at nature itself for solutions and its true relationship with man. Because why do I say that? Let me explain here through the building blocks of the universe. In fact, actually, it's not just the Earth, it's basically the universe. If you look at here, I'm talking about now fractal geometry. To make it short, I only have 1 hour. Fractal geometry is what makes this cute girl cute, or makes this girl cute. Do you think she's cute? Well, I'd like to agree. I'd like to think that you guys are agreeing with me. I don't see it, but I'd like to think that you are. You guys are. But this is actually the reason why you find this girl cute. Is because there's actually something hotwired in us, and that is fractal geometry, ladies and gentlemen, or what we call also as the golden mean. Because as mentioned, perfect beauty and the possibility of perception has the same geometrics. You recognize something to be beautiful because you are hotwired and you are designed to recognize beauty in the same manner that we are also designed to recognize positive energy, in the same manner that we are hotwired to recognize good energy and positivity. And that's how our brain works. That's how our whole system works, no? And imagine if your structure is also designed and attuned to you. Here's an experiment. This is actually a sketch by Nick. So basically, don't go anywhere. You just look at your hand, and you will see that fractal geometry, or the segments that I'm talking about, is there. It's basically looking at yourself. It's there. Most architecture students and architecture practitioners are familiar with this, the Vitruvius Man. And what's fantastic about this is the proportion. Diba? So imagine if you design something based, diba, we normally design something based on our proportion. Yan ang turo sa atin ng graphic standards eh. But imagine when we design it based on the geometrics given to us by nature. That's actually how we should be designing. What am I talking about is actually phi. That's the magic number. This is the symbol, and this is the mathematical number. Most mathematicians are actually also dumbfounded with this phenomenon, or which is also called the golden ratio. Because if you compute it, it's a perfect number. In fact, some even call it God's number, because you find it really in nature. There, this is the whole number. This is Nick's arm. He was basically demonstrating that fractal geometry is also in his hand. But let me show you how it looks like geometrically, no? The Euclidean way. So most of us are familiar with this. This is a pent actually. So that it has still the 1.618. However you shape it, it has the 1.618. This A, the B. If you combine it, we look at it, it still has the correct proportion of 1.6. Oh, sorry, 1.618. Yeah. However you look at it, in fact, we can conduct a sequencing to form, most of you are familiar with this, there, the golden ratio, actually. Why is this significant? Is because even us, our own body is based on this ratio. In fact, most historians and designers of old consider this as a magic number. To this day, it is still being used as a proportion for art. And if you look at the modern paintings and also the classic paintings, you will see these proportions also. And here in architecture, very familiar with this. Another aspect of this is the Fibonacci series, which is more conducted more for farming. In fact, this Fibonacci, the mathematician, was counting rabbits initially. So he came up with this. So 5 plus 8 is actually 13, and 13 plus 21 is actually 34. 21 plus 34 is equals to 55. And we compute that further, it has the proportion still of 1.618. If we check that, actually 89, we divide 89 by 55, that's 1.618 still. 144 divide that by 89, it still has 1.6178. Derive that, it has 1.618 still. So what I'm basically saying from a mathematical point of view, gentlemen, this geometry, the inner geometry of nature, is also has a perfect math. And imagine if you can utilize that in our architecture. Let me show you this, which is the natural phenomenon. It showcases the natural phenomenon of fractal geometry. Whatever you saw kanina, it's also here in the pinnacot, which is also present in the pineapple. And is, of course, this is one of my favorite. This is Mike's favorite also. Also present in a sunflower. In fact, if you look at that, it's a perfect swirl right there. And it's consistent with nature. If you look at another flower, if you look at, in fact, you look at the coconut inside, I experimented on that. It has the same fractal. There. Which makes nature really, really very amazing, ladies and gentlemen. And nature and man is actually intertwined physically and proportionally. This is what I'm trying to express to you. And one of the undiscovered aspects of our biology is also our acoustics and magnetics. We discussed the geometrics. I want to discuss to you the aspect of acoustic. But since this is an introduction, I'm just gonna hit some points. One of the points actually is bioharmonic resonance. Bioharmonic resonance is how we are in tune with acoustics, with the sounds of nature, and with the sounds of our own voice, with sounds of each other. And it helps us to be more healthy and stronger. There. These are some of the numbers that we can, in the second talk, we can discuss this in detail. But I would just want to run this down to you basically. But I want to talk about more is biofield. How does it come into place using bioharmonics? Imagine yourself. Imagine your body. Di ba la? And imagine that you are also emitting electromagnetic energy. Then go beside another person, and this person is actually emitting the same energy as you are, only on a certain different degrees. And these energies, from which we scientifically call as biofield or biomagnetics, is known, ladies and gentlemen, on some other forms. In fact, they're known as universal life force, prana. The more popular term is actually chi, elan vital, aura, vital, sinem, and spiritual, and teleki or driyash, elfid, and the like. So we have a biofield within us, ladies and gentlemen, which is why we are susceptible to electromagnetics and acoustics. These are some of the aspects also. If you talk to most modern doctors and physicians, these are some of the aspects that determine the health and strength and resiliency of our bodies. And yes, also our immune system. In fact, I just want to run this down again because this is a research by Dr. Konstantin Korotkov. This is a European research, ano. It basically tells us how our GDV works in our body. Here, I just want to show you the experiment that proves that biofield or biomagnetism is true. We've been talking. I mentioned I've been talking about this for 6 years now. Nick and the other guys has been advocating this. I think way back 2009, and imagine their struggle to make you to convince you that electromagnetics or biofield is true. But now it's thankfully because of technology, these things are actually more accepted now. In fact, they can measure chi right now. Here's an experiment. It's called the pyramid. It's the pyramid energy, wherein you put this contraption over your head to show you that there's actually a biomagnetic happening because this structure, this contraption moves by itself when it goes down your head. So it basically proves. In fact, also let me just say, in fact, it's consistent. The movement is also consistent, which again proves that biofield or bioelectromagnetics is present in our bodies, or the biofield. There, it was mentioned there. In fact, bioharmonics is one of those. Bioharmonics and also biofield is one of those responsible in our perception of meditation and weight loss, lucid dreaming, multivitamins package, and relaxation. In fact, and considering all of these things, it's actually a natural relaxation. Here, it's being mentioned that bioharmonics was developed by Michael Helios. Again, these are one of the things that we can discuss in detail. I'm just introducing these things to you. What basically this says is that bioharmonics is true. In fact, on a certain degree, when you are subjected to this said bioharmonics, your body produces natural vitamin C. Imagine that. And these are some of the researchers also shown by, this is actually the scientist is Gian Dinotto. These are some of his researchers. And as I mentioned, our body basically responds directly to bioharmonics exchange in biofood with other organisms. Imagine yourself um, with other living organism, and actually our system, our organisms speak to each other. To make it plainly, you know, it speaks to each other, it correlates to each other. So in fact, if we are attuned to those organisms, according to even to Janine Benning, you are actually stronger. Here's an experiment. Okay, so I'm referring to myself. You know, sometimes I could really be that skeptical. So Nick, what he did is he presented this experiment to me. It basically shows a germination wherein a plant, an organism, is subjected to the ideal situation or ideal environments being mentioned here. You have that ideal GDV, you have the ideal biofield, you have the ideal bioharmonics within a certain area, and it's being treated. Let's just call that as magnetic water. So to your left is simple. We just place tap water. On the right, it was subjected to GDV, or let's just plainly call it as magnetic water or magnet water. So throughout a period of time, this was conducted in such a way. So after 9 days, you will notice the one with magnet water, it has grown better than the one on the left, you know? Oh, this one pala, planted in dirt, yeah. Then after 23 days, as you as you will notice, the magnet water actually grows better. It's stronger. Mas madami yung leaves niya in comparison to the left na parang it seems like there's something wrong. But actually, ladies and gentlemen, the one on the left is the normal thing. Kaya nga, if you get a simple soil, put a plant there, this is how it's gonna be. But with the treatment, with under very nice conducive environment, this is what's gonna happen. So after 29 days, yeah, as you can see, it's still growing better there. And then after a month, 31 days post germination, you can clearly see the difference, ladies and gentlemen. So what does this tell us? Under possible good conditions, you germinate and it actually grows better. So this is the data behind that. So that is what we are basically using in BioFusion. We use all of this data, and we design a structure that's based on that, considering that. Because our body is stronger and resilient in the proper environment. Why it works, ladies and gentlemen, is because a structure environment that defines our well-being. Put yourself in a in a well, I don't want to call an undesirable conditions. For example, you're living when we did CCP, I mean PICC, the Philippine International Convention Center, when we did the renovation work, we discovered that the the slab is actually hanging 6 meters down because of the sand already depressed. So imagine that 6 meters. There's actually a community underneath already. I could not just imagine how they were there. They're living under such condition. When it's high tide, they have to run up, and then it's really I don't know how they live. But if I notice most of the violent stuff happening is actually there, and it's the reason why they had to be taken out of that place is because of iba yung ugali nila, iba yung the way they think, iba the way they act, and mostly they do a lot of crimes. In comparison, that for example, you're living in a subdivision, you're living in a gated subdivision, you're living in a really nice house. You think better, you're more productive, you study, you work, you become a very responsible uh, individual, a citizen, diba? Because this is what it says. Your environment, ladies and gentlemen, affects the way you think and your well-being. It affects the environment on our biology, the sound harmonics and structure. Kapag, di ba, kaya kapag pagising mo pa lang, sinisermonan ka ng nanay mo, you feel different already. Your mood is different. You are less productive and stuff like that. All of these things affect your well-being and your immune system. Here's also the thing, because we are 95% our environment. So live near the sea, and you will have a very nice mood. You have very uh, healthy, very healthy lifestyle. You will find yourself na yung BP mo mababa all the time. In fact, DNA is informed via feed loop. What does this mean? Your DNA kasi responds also, your overall system, your humanity, basically your biology, responds to whatever it is that you're exposed to. And yes, if there is beauty, we of course respond to beauty. If there is something that's not beautiful, we also respond it. Because we feel physiologically, we respond to mental and emotional states. We respond to all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, and we are more susceptible than you think. The ones I presented to you is a European study. I want to present here to you a study by a Japanese uh, scientist. I call him Crazy Mazzaro. Why do I call him Crazy Mazzaro? Because He takes a vessel, puts water in it, and then he whispers or talks to the water and says, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. You make me sick. And then goes to microscope and checks it out. That may sound crazy, but here is his experiment. When he looked in the microscope, this is what he saw on the microscope. Yung microscopic view of how the water looks like. It looks basically like this and has this color. Now, in comparison, when he spoke of love, of thank you, of compassion, of wisdom, we saw these water crystals formed. Diba? In fact, um, when he asked a Buddha, or he basically prayed a Buddhist prayer to the water. Here's how it looks like. I hope you can see it. The water before and after Buddhist prayer. This is the before, and the one on top is the after. It formed a really, really nice crystal. This is prayer. Huh? He prayed on the water. Okay. What's the significance of this, ladies and gentlemen? How many percent are our bodies are made of? What's basically the content of our bodies? Diba? We are basically 70% water. So here's also to prove how susceptible we are. We are more actually susceptible than we think. And yes, it's basically in our DNA. I don't want to discuss this further. I just want to show you that the point, I just want to drive the point, is in our DNA, ladies and gentlemen. As I mentioned, we are susceptible, and then we are looped up with our environment. There. It's interesting to mention that the ancients knew this. In fact, when you talk about fractal geometry, these are the topics of the learned before. Somehow, I think along the line we lost this in our modernity. I'd like to believe that this is the opinion of Nicholas Jones, that somewhere along the line we really lost it. But it's nice now that we are reviving biofield and bioarchitecture. I just want to show this to you. This is the one on the right is the top shot or top view of the pyramids of Giza. As you can notice, it's based on the golden mean. Everybody knows that the pyramids of Giza is really something amazing. These are some examples also of the history using fractal geometry. And I've been to most of these structures, and it feels different. It feels like you're almost like you're a priest when you enter, and then when you leave, it feels really, really light to be inside the structures. So what basically BioFusion doing is reviving ancient effective methods, interpreting these systems for our times. So all of these methods, this is not something new, ladies and gentlemen, actually. We are just basically reviving it. Because we need to be attuned with nature in order for us to dwell in a structure that's healthy. I want to show you some of the projects. Okay, what are we talking about? O, paano ba yan, Manny? Paano ba yan, architect? Paano ba nyo ba ginawa? I just want to show you, of course, in respect to my mentors. These are some of the projects that we did in Ireland and in Switzerland. Oh, and of course, also in London. So these are all designs of Mike and Nick. There. And one lady, in fact, it was published in the local newspaper. They were married for 11 years, and then when Mike designed their house, and they came inside his house, the wife got pregnant. And then one story, there's this a couple from which the wife is also suffering from cancer. In fact, she survived. So those are the things that benefits when you are designing something that's attuned to nature. How is it attuned to nature? The proportion and the base plan is based on something that's fractal geometric. You consider the bioharmonics, and you can consider also the biofields of each person. But between you and me, guys, this is actually gaudish to me. So this is one of the reason why I asked Mike if we can actually come up with a design of our own. We can interpret it. Oh, this is the one in Switzerland. Oh, sorry, this is the one in Ireland. I'm sorry. So here's just a sample. Nick was saying when, in fact, when you build bioarchitecture, when you're just building it, it's actually nice also. You're looking at the frames and it's already nice and also the aesthetical. There. So some comments, they say, it looks like a church. Oh, this is the one in Switzerland when it was really, really cold when we built this. So as I mentioned, this is actually Gaudish to me. So here's the interpretation, our interpretation of bioarchitecture and BioFusion. So these are some of our projects in collaboration with other architects. This is EcoHub. I was just informed last week that it's already platinum green architecture. Um, what's nice about this structure is that it's basically upcycled materials. And then we used, I mentioned this to the guys, we used Onduline roofing. Why is that very significant? Is because this was during Ondoy days. So when we were building this, Ondoy hit, and it is just one of, it was Eco Hub was still standing during that time. In fact, afterwards, I don't know if you can see this, we used all of the trees that fell off, and we used it as a bench, and then we also used it as part of the structure. There. This is in Simon's Village. This is a structure we designed for uh, Mother Lily. It's in the Pierre Palaces in Quezon City. This is a church that we designed in Alabang. A eco farmhouse in San Vicente, Palawan. There. This is a park we designed and built in West Coast, Singapore. A theme park in General Santos. These are some of our residential projects. You know, if you notice this, we usually use fractal geometry. These are some of the old projects that I just want to showcase. Sometimes, because of course the owner has a say to it. So what we did, we played around this one. It's a 1.5 hectare property. We basically played around uh, the landscape nila. This is the one in Ayala Labang. It's still to date the biggest residential establishment in Ayala Labang. It's 1.9 hectare, which is owned by the Luwiliers. This is a project we did in Highlands. What's interesting about this, we separated, I don't know if you can see the cursor, we separated the master's bedroom with the main structure by a moat. And then for some reason, I don't know how, plants though just kept growing here by the moat. And I later discovered that Tita Mina had cancer, and when she lived in this place, this is in Highlands in Tagaytay, she recovered actually. It was amazing to me too. This is a current project that we're doing, which is a full-blown, ika nga todo na BioFusion. This is one of the houses. This is a subdivision. We replicated something like this also in Bataan. Some of our commercial projects, we are the designers of Skin Perfect. As you can see, all of the curbs, We're also the architects of Sunglass Haven. We built and designed 12 of their stores. Okay, so basically a rundown. Nature's architecture shows the way to sustainability and resiliency. What we're doing is basically sounding the gong that builds structure we build should be nature-based, attuned and protect nature, and it will protect you. Attune your structure with nature, and it will help us to be resilient. Because we are basically not built to be apart, ladies and gentlemen. Diba? Karamihan sa atin, we live in an apartment. No, we are not built to be apart. We are built to be with nature, and part of it to be truly sustainable. Let me leave you with this. Architecture should not just be designing impressive edifices, but one also remembers man's basic need for shelter. I want to quote my teacher, architect Chenso, about this anthropocentricity, which is building a structure, an avenue for repose and healing where life flows and grows. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.